All right, so today we are going to handle some really big snakes, and if you haven't seen my biggest one, her name is Lucy. The last time I weighed her, she was about 61 pounds. Let me tell you, she is my monster python. She is a beast. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to clean her enclosure, and she's been in there pretty much for about a month and a half. I've just been pretty much spot cleaning. As a matter of fact, I've been spot cleaning so much that I think half the coconut husk is gone because I've just been scooping out the big chunks and throwing away her waste. And really, it's at the end of the breeding season. I paired her up with my male, and as a matter of fact, I need to clean my male too, but today we're just going to concentrate mostly on Lucy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Lucy out of her enclosure. I'm going to bring her in here. We're going to get a weight on her, and I'm guessing she's probably between 65 and 70 pounds. She is a beast. She's probably eaten like 10 to 15 rats since last picked her up. So it seems like every time I go in there and pick her up, she is a new animal, because keep in mind, you know, it seems like every time I pick her up, she weighs another 10 pounds. So when she was 20, moving up to 30, it wasn't too bad, and 40 pounds, 50 pounds. Now she's getting to 60 pounds. You pick up a 70-pound snake, let me tell you, that can be a challenge. This is probably the last time I'll be picking up Lucy by myself. You know, pretty much in the future, if she gets up to 80 or 90 pounds, I'm definitely going to need a second person. So I'm going to bring her in here, get a weight, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her in one of these boa tubs, just kind of a temporary enclosure. I actually used to keep her in one of these ARS boa tubs, and she outgrew it, and she kept rubbing and rubbing on the enclosure. She had a really bad respiratory infection. Her mouth was all messed up. Then I moved her into the big 6-foot enclosure out on my pool table, and she loves it. She's got the overhead heat, the belly heat, and plenty of room to move around. So that's what I'm going to do today, and probably I was thinking maybe at the end, maybe I'll move Sonny over. He is the mate to Lucy, and he is about 30 pounds, and I'm probably not going to get a weight on him because he really hasn't been eating for, I'd say, about 7 months. He probably lost a little bit of weight, and then he just went back on food, so I gave him like 4 rats, and he's probably still about 30 pounds. So let's go grab Lucy, and I want to bring her over here and get a weight on that big old snake. All right, so here is Lucy. She is a really big snake, and I had a lot of viewers say that, hey, that snake doesn't look like 60 pounds because it is in a 6-foot enclosure. And honestly, if you're not used to snakes, or if you have some in smaller enclosures, you get them in a big enclosure like this, she doesn't really look like 60 pounds. It'll fool you, let me tell you. Once I pick her up, you'll see how big that snake is. She is a monster. And one thing you always have to watch with retics is the feeding mode. I've had a lot of comments say that snake is really mean and aggressive and wild. And let me tell you, when she's going after a rat, it can be frightening, let me tell you. But usually if they snap right out of feeding mode, go into a handling mode, and then they're peaceful as can be. Let me tell you, this girl is a baby. Once you get her out, she is really friendly. She's never snapped at me. I have total confidence in her. So let's pull her out and see if we can get a weight on her. All right, before I actually get her, I kind of wanted to show you my setup in here. This is a tote that I got at Ace Hardwick. I just bought this today for Lucy because my other tote was way too small, and I kind of had to fold her up and get her in there, and it's a really awesome tote. I think she'll fit in there okay. And then if you put the lid in there, you can see that just the lid weighs 2 pounds. This scale actually goes up to 400 pounds, so there's no problem at all weighing her in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move her over to this boa tub. These boa tubs are really nice. I actually paid, I think, about $600 shipped per each boa tub. It was really expensive. I did not expect her to outgrow this, and now I have a couple empty boa tubs. They're pretty much just to hold the snakes temporarily until I can clean their enclosure. So I'm going to get a weight, put her in this tub, and then clean her enclosure, and then put her back. All right, are you ready for this? The first thing we need to do is unlock the enclosure and get her out of feeding mode. She's definitely in a crazed feeding mode. Yeah. All right, buddy. And usually what I do is just kind of give her a little nudge here. So he wants to eat my hook. All right, buddy. Okay. She's a big girl. Woo-wee. Oh. Yeah. We'll see how much she weighs. She keeps coming out more and more. More and more. Ooh. Alright. Yeah. She is really big. Alright. Wow. Woo. Alright, take a look at this big old snake. She is a monster. Alright. Ooh. Let's see if we can get her in this tub here. Oh. Wow. Woo. Oh yeah. Alright. Alright, girl. Let's see. Alright. She's coming in at 67.2 pounds. 67.2. She's a big girl. Yeah. This is where I'm going to put her right here. Temporarily. But, oh yeah. She weighs a lot. Look at that big old girl. Woo. Yeah. She's a big girl. Yeah. Let me tell you, this snake can tire you out. I can't lift her for very long. Whew. She's a big girl. Holy cow. Wow. Ooh. All right, girl. Yeah. There we go. Whew. Wow. All right, so here is Lucy's enclosure on my pool table, and I'm gonna go through and clean this thing up. This was actually made by Brace Exotics. It's a custom-made enclosure. Actually, they had a display at one of the local reptile shows here in Colorado, and I love the way that these looked and how they put them together. I actually ordered it at one show and then picked it up at the following show, which is pretty cool. And the only thing that I added that they didn't actually have included was the radiant heat panel on the top. And this is the biggest radiant heat panel that you can get from Reptile Basics. And that thing is fantastic. As a matter of fact, I think they should offer those through Brace Exotics as an option on this. This is really awesome. And then underneath here, there's just a little tiny spot that's cut out with a router on the bottom, and then they fit in some heat tape. And then I control it up here on the top. I'm using a Vivarium Electronics VE300 times 2, which is essentially 2 heat zones. I keep the top zone at 78 and the bottom, the belly heat at 88. So the top, what I really do is I kind of adjust the top, kind of custom to what the snake really prefers. And if Lucy eats a bunch of rats, sometimes I'll turn it up to 80 or 82. And if it's above 80 and she's trying to get out of here, just going crazy, it either means that she went to the bathroom in here and I need to clean it up. That's usually when she starts pushing, or if the heat on the top is too hot. So typically what I'll do is, if there's no waste at all on the bottom, what I'll do is I'll turn down the temperature. Retics really like to get out of anything above 80 sometimes. They really like it like in the mid 70s. So if she's trying to get out of here, like going crazy and trying to push out, I'll bring that down to like 75, and then she's perfectly fine. And if she's really coiled up under here and really in a tight coil, what I'll do is I'll raise it like like 2 degrees a day until she kind of spreads out a little bit, and I kind of just adjust the top temperature based on how she's doing. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually take these glass doors off, and I'm always afraid I'm gonna break one of these, because if I do, then I'll have to get another one cut before I can put her back in here, because I don't have an extra. And they actually just slide out. You can pick them up and pop them right out, and I'm gonna take those off, and then I'm gonna remove all of the old coconut husk substrate. All right, so here is the cleaned out enclosure, and what I actually did is I went through and I took all the coconut husk out, and then I used a spray bottle with F10 diluted in water. I use about 10 ml per liter of F10 solution in water, and I go through and I spray the whole thing down, the sides, the top, the inside, even the heat panel, everything on the inside. I spray it down and then dry it. And then for the really hard urates, what I do is I just take a spoon and I kind of, you know, get off the big stuff. I don't really worry about the little stuff, because the new coconut husk will just cover everything on the bottom. I don't really worry about it being perfect. So that's pretty much it. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'll show you how I process the coconut husk. All right, so this is my setup here for processing the coconut husk, and what I actually use is, this is what I use. I just happen to choose the Pro Coco. I actually buy it by the pallet, so I have tons and tons of these Pro Coco blocks. And someone was actually asking me, what if you don't want to use a whole block? Do you want to soak it and break the whole thing apart? I would say no. Probably what you want to do is just use like a sprayer and then spray it on the side and kind of flake off just what you need. Keep most of the block intact if you're not going to use the whole block. But for me, I use a whole block. Actually, for Lucy's enclosure, she uses one entire block. So what I did is I put a little bit of water in this side, just enough to completely submerge the block over here, and then I'm going to submerge it. I flip it over just for a few seconds and then put it back. And it really depends, the time that you soak it depends on how compressed the block is. If the block is really compressed, it takes a little bit longer. This one's kind of loose. If you leave it in the water too long, the whole thing falls apart and it gets drenched. It's a little hard to work with. So I'll kind of show you how I process these blocks. And so all the packaging, you just want to take out. And then really, you can tell this one's really kind of loose, because you can kind of see in here, it's got little kind of gaps in here. So depending on how loose it is, I'm not going to soak this one very long, because it'll fall apart really easy, I think. So it really depends on the block. So I soak it just for a little bit and then flip it. And what that does is it kind of soaks it all the way through. And you can see it's already expanding really, really fast. And it also depends on the temperature of the block. If the block is frozen, it takes a lot more to actually soak the block. And this one is already falling apart. Oh! Whoa! Look at how that one just really fell apart real easy. And then in here, basically you just move it all over. And that's it. That's pretty much it. That whole block is completely apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean all this up and put it in there and bring it down to Lucy's enclosure. Alright, so the cool thing about this is this little tub fits right in here, and I can actually turn it right over. And actually, one whole block will fill this completely. That's a lot of substrate. Yeah. So another thing I definitely don't want to forget to do is to clean the glass. And really, to clean the glass, you want to use F10. You want to totally disinfect all parts of the enclosure to make sure, you know, if there's any hint of a respiratory infection, you definitely want to get rid of it as much as possible. A clean enclosure is a healthy enclosure. All right, so here is the cleaned enclosure. I have new substrate, clean glass, cleaned inside and out. Now I just have to move the snake over to this clean enclosure. All right, so I'm going to pull Lucy out of this tub, and let me show her off a little bit. Let's see how big a 67-pound snake is. She is really big. Look at how big that girl is. She is really big. All right, girl. Wow. Mm. Oh my. Oh my. Look at that big old girl. Woo. She's a beast. That is one big snake. She is a monster. Oh yeah. She's quite the girl. Whew, I don't want to get in trouble. All right, we're moving around. All right, so here is Lucy in her clean enclosure, safe and sound. It was actually a lot easier to handle her than I thought it would be. She was, she was really nice and mellow, and she didn't really seem like she was posing much of a threat at all. So it was really a good experience, I think, for both me and the snake. Now she wants to come out. I don't want you to come out, buddy. There you go. Let me close the glass. All right, that's it. Okay, so there you have it. That is Lucy, my beautiful, gentle giant. And let me tell you, I couldn't imagine not having a big snake like that in my collection. So now we know she is 67.2 pounds. She keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I don't know when she's going to stop growing. As a matter of fact, they say snakes never stop growing. They keep getting bigger and bigger. They just slow down a little bit with age. And she's definitely slowed down considerably compared to when she was younger. She is like grown like a rocket when she was younger. And if you're wondering what kind of snake she is, she's 50% Jampea dwarf. So she's 50% mainland. The mainlands usually get 200 to 300 pounds, and the Jampea dwarf really brings that size down considerably. She's still about 14 feet long. I think she probably, I don't think she'll max out, maybe not even get 100 pounds max. They live quite a long time. They can live 30 to 40 years, and they keep growing with age. They'll slow down as they get bigger, but they'll keep getting bigger and bigger as they grow. And you can always thin them back. It's really based on how much you feed them. I've seen some similar snakes that are considerably smaller because they're not feeding them as much. And me, with all these rats, and I'm trying to retire a lot of my older retired breeder rats, and that's really why she's growing really fast, is because I've been putting a lot of those rats into her. And she's also a white albino. That's what makes her really beautiful. She's an albino. There's different phases of albinos in reticulated pythons. There's the white albino, the lavender albino, and the purple albino. And I like the white albino the best. It really just pops. It's one of the best morphs out there. As a matter of fact, if you looked at all the morphs of reticulated pythons, and there's quite a few, probably almost comparable to the number of morphs of ball pythons now. There's a lot of people that are really promoting and really working with retics, and I think out of all the different colors and patterns, I still think the white albino is the most beautiful and my personal favorite. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.